So, Jacob, how would you do a format where the time is actually passing in your game, and it's really important that time passes in your game because there are certain events that are happening despite your players, and your players might have ability to influence some of that, but for the most part, there's still things happening during the game without them. And can you give an example of something like that?
So going to a video game,
Right.
Shadow over Mordor had a concept of time in the world doesn't pass until your character dies.
Okay, so but your character is kind of a ghost in that game anyway, right? In a weird way.
Yeah, he's like half dead, and there's a ghost possessing him, which is keeping him alive. So that's why he was undying. But it took time for him to revive. So in that, your side quests and all of the captains you killed got replaced and progressed.
And so in that game, the idea was to kill a bunch of orc captains until you finally took everything out, basically?
Or make them your own, yeah.
And so if you were to get killed in the game, then your work gets slowly undone.
Yes.
And then you have to re-go do it, which is kind of the penalty for death.
Yes.
Okay. So what's interesting about that then is, so that's showing you that the orc civilization, because you've left power gap holes, fills itself back in, which is exactly what would happen. So if you move quick enough, you could cut the head off the snake of that organization, like a mob boss. Like if you could kill enough mafiosos, you could technically kill the mob. But if you killed one, waited a year, came back, that guy's now been replaced. You'd have to it's kind of like The Crow.
Yeah.
Like the movie The Crow. You got to kill all these people as fast as you possibly can so that they don't have the time to replace their numbers.
Yes.
Okay. So in an RPG game, well, I mean, that's one example, right? So if you're playing like a Elliot Ness type of thing, then you have to kill or incarcerate or put behind bars, whatever your players are comfortable doing, all these mob bosses fast enough so that they can't replace themselves.
Yes.
That's another example, can you think of, for something that we could do in an RPG where time is passing?
So if your players just, going back to our side quest thing, if they abandon the main quest for too long...
Oh, the main quest starts...
it starts resolving things that...
Right, may not want to have been to resolve. So
exactly.
That's a really good point, actually. So if you get embroidered... So it's like if the idea is to save the kingdom before, let's say the gate opens up and... whatever, the undead come, the demons come, whatever, something like that.
You keep losing more and more towns, which hurts the economy of the world. So you might actually have the more you let this sit, the more you don't have allies who have good armor and stuff to help you in the end.
You could have this horrible balancing game.
Exactly.
Where if you save this town goes. And so the longer you take to save this town, the faster this town town could go. So
and then you could have your side quests be this risk versus reward, where the more side quests they do, the more gear levels and stuff they'll have. But the less
gear, allies, and stuff they can have access to, and
the more the enemy is powerful because you didn't thwart their plans.
Yeah, that would be a really fun one if you did that. And so at that point, you'd have to... I harped on the timeline many times, but at that point, you really want a good timeline with the political situation happening where it's like, okay, so you come across and you can save this area or this area depending on how you go. And if you go this way, then everything on this tree is probably dead unless you kind of come back. Yeah. Kind of like Faster Than Light, the game FTL, where if you go... one path, you may not be able to get back down to these other planets down here because it'll take too long, and you'll be caught. And so you can have this risk versus reward of or maybe like the Never-Ending Story where the nothing is happening. Yeah. So the more you brace against the nothing over here, the nothing still comes and takes out the other things you weren't bracing for. Yep. I like that concept. That'd be really interesting to play through, as long as you literally charted it out to say, okay, if they do this for one game session, then everything's okay, or they might lose this little bit here. Yeah. But if they spend 3 game sessions just because they're looting every single part of the dungeon, well, that takes time. So the more time they spend in this dungeon, the more this other stuff can get destroyed because the enemy doesn't care how long you spend in Dungeon A. In fact, the enemy's happy that you spend your whole life in Dungeon A. They'll just go around you and take out all your allies.
And in smaller scales, you could have, on the flip side of the main quest, you could have side quests go away.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Or they resolved of like, well, my daughter's dead because you didn't act.
Yeah.
So now the scope of the side quest is different because the end goal is much different now.
Yep.
And there might be consequences now because you didn't do it properly.
Well, so you could look at it this way. So that you didn't save my daughter thing could be this. It's, you're getting petitioned by a king because his daughter was like one of the kings of like a minor territory.
Yeah.
And he'll come and help you against the evil horde, but you got to save his daughter. Mm-hmm. Well, you screwed around too much over here, and now his daughter died. And now when the thing happens, he's not showing up. His entire army is not showing up to the last battle, which makes it inevitably harder for you. I really like this concept overall. Of plotting out how time is happening with the players, players. But I like the concept of, if I choose this, I'm choosing against this, which is really what life is all about, right?
Yes.
So,
and you could also have, as they're taking their time clearing out this floor of the dungeon, the rest of the floors have more time to prepare.
Right. Or maybe the next floor they go down is totally empty.
Yep.
Because they've all pulled out and they're all now holding the bottom floor.
Uh-huh.
And now it's like, oh wait, there's like 17 people in this room. Mm-hmm. This room is gonna kill us. We can't just barge into this room. We have to hit it and then move out and then hit it again and then move out. We gotta whittle that room down because it all decided to hold in it, or decide that the rest of this dungeon's not worth it and take the consequences for that because we weren't going fast enough. Anyway, it's a lot of good ideas. I love it. We will see you guys next time.